Hey there, night owls and reluctant dreamers. Picture this. You're tiptoeing through a silent library at 3 a.m., the only light a flickering desk lamp that smells faintly of stale coffee and overdue deadlines. And suddenly the books whisper, "Sleep is for the weak." Just in the heart of a quaint village, nestled beside the mysterious edges of the whispering forest, there lived a young girl named Lyra. The village buzzed with the chatter of evening crickets and wafted sweetly with the scent of pine and dew. Yet, when night fell, Lyra felt a tight knot of unease wrap around her chest. Picture this. It's dark. The shadows stretch like long fingers across her room, and every creak of wood sounded like a tiny ghost trying to get her attention. Anxiety wrapped its chilly fingers around her heart, making sleep feel like an elusive fairy that flitted just out of reach. Despite her best efforts, the comforting embrace of sleep seemed as distant as a spaceship reel, yet impossibly far away, likely piloted by some aloof alien with a sleep schedule of its own. One bright, sunny afternoon, as Lyra ventured reluctantly toward the edge of the whispering forest with its thick canopies and rustling leaves, fate intervened in the most peculiar manner. Out of nowhere swooped a wonderfully plump owl named Ori, who landed with a soft plop on a nearby branch, fluffing his feathers like a wise old professor adjusting his glasses. "Hey there, young dreamer," he hooted, his voice like the warm crackling of a comforting fire. "Why do you look like you've just eaten a lemon?" Lyra couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of an owl, of all creatures, being so cheeky. Before she could utter a single word, Ori offered her a wink and invited her on an adventure through the forest, claiming they would conquer her nightly dread in the process. Little did she know, this journey would be anything but ordinary, blending whispers of nature with her quest for tranquility. As they meandered through the forest, the world transformed before her very eyes. The air was infused with the scent of moss and that earthy smell that follows rain, while the gentle rustle of leaves accompanied their every step, almost as if the forest were singing a lullaby just for them. Lyra listened in awe as Ori pointed out the wonders around them. A family of fireflies, twinkling like tiny stars in a glittery dance, and a babbling brook that gurgled sweetly, as if sharing the juiciest village gossip. The colorful wildflowers bowed gently in the breeze, their sweet fragrance wrapping around her like a warm hug, coaxing a giggle out of her normally anxious heart. It was a surreal escape, as if Disney had decided to drop a little magic into a perfectly ordinary day, and she felt a flicker of hope ignite, a flicker that wanted desperately to grow into a warm, cozy flame. Ori, ever the wisecracking guide, tested Lyra with peculiar riddles, each revealing a small secret about the art of sleep as they wandered deeper into the forest. One riddle involved a particularly decrepit tree that creaked ominously. Lyra dubbed it the Old Man of the Woods, for it looked as grumpy as a bear woken from a nap. With each riddle solved, Ori revealed yet another secret ingredient for sweet slumber: the importance of the right bedtime thoughts, the magic of relaxation techniques, and even the occasional sheep-counting strategy, as if the nocturnal shepherds of yore were still keeping score. As they continued exploring, Lyra found herself laughing, her worries dissipating like morning mist under the rising sun. Who would have thought a whimsical owl could turn anxiety into amusement? Each lesson was wrapped in humor, as they both knew that even the owls must get the occasional bad dream, especially after a particularly filling mouse dinner. As dusk settled over the forest, painting the world in shades of purple and gold, Lyra finally felt the knot in her chest begin to unfurl. Much like one of those pesky holiday lights that decided to cooperate at the last minute. With Ori beside her, she carried the secrets they gathered like a beautiful tapestry stitched from laughter, wisdom, and the scent of night-blooming jasmine. The darkness didn't seem so frightening anymore. Instead, it felt like an inviting blanket promising comfort. Lyra turned to Ori with a heart brimming with gratitude, knowing tomorrow she could finally face the night with newfound courage, and maybe even a wink of her own. As she prepared to return home, she realized that perhaps the whispering forest had a different magic, one that quieted the mind and warmed the soul, perfect for drifting off into sweet dreams. As she finally took a deep breath and surrendered to the idea of sleep, as dusk dipped low over the whispering forest, draping the world in hues of indigo and deep emerald, Lyra and Ori trod carefully along the winding trail. The air hummed with the gentle rustling of leaves, a natural chorus that set an enchanting stage for their adventure. Lyra felt a tingling excitement, as though tiny pixies were dancing along her spine, while Ori, ever the skeptic, eyed the shadows suspiciously, convinced that every gnarled tree was a hidden monster waiting to pounce. At least they're wearing their best tree outfits tonight, he quipped, earning a playful roll of Lyra's eyes. Just ahead, a soft gurgle beckoned them closer, the sound of water beckoning them to enter a world steeped in wonder. With hearts brimming with curiosity, the duo stumbled upon the legendary celestial stream, a ribbon of crystal clear water snaking through the foliage. Starlight twinkled down through the canopy, casting playful reflections that danced like tiny fairies upon the water's surface. The soothing sound of the stream was like a lullaby, its gentle flow whispering secrets of tranquility that tugged at their weary minds. Lyra inhaled deeply, the aroma of wet earth and wild jasmine wrapping around her like a cozy blanket. She could almost hear the water say, "Come, leave your worries behind." And who could resist such an inviting offer? Suddenly, a splash echoed through the air, and out from the depths sauntered Maris, the water nymph. With hair that shimmered like the surface of the stream and skin kissed by moonlight, she was a vision more splendid than a double rainbow on a Tuesday. "Ah, travelers of the night, welcome to my realm," she sang, her voice a melody that tickled the eardrums. They quickly exchanged introductions, Lyra eagerly gobbling her words like a kid on Halloween. Ori, however, played the cautious hero, scanning for any signs of enchanted mischief. It was hard to ignore the fact that she was about as welcome as a cat at a dog show. But Maris had a calming presence that seemed to wash over them like, well, a soothing stream. Maris beckoned them closer with a flick of her wrist, and suddenly the air filled with a sparkling energy. "Meditation is essential for restful sleep, my young friends," she instructed, guiding them to sit at the water's edge. She explained how the gentle ripples contained a powerful essence, capable of washing away their worries like dirt on a Sunday. Lyra and Ori leaned in, their skepticism softening as they breathed in the magic of the moment. It was like experiencing their own personal spa day, complete with ambient rainfall sounds, except without the awkward small talk about facial creams that they didn't understand. They closed their eyes, letting the peaceful symphony of swishing water and whispering winds create a haven in their minds. Just as Lyra began to feel the weight of sleep draping over her like a familiar blanket, dark clouds rolled in menacingly, casting a shadow over their sanctuary. The soothing melodies quickly shifted to a foreboding, angry crescendo as thunder grumbled like an irate cat. "Well, there goes my bedtime playlist," Ori grumbled, peeking from behind his eyelids. Maris, undeterred, waved her hands in a calming motion, her voice rising above the tempest, promising that tranquility could still prevail. Together, they crafted a bubble of peace amidst the storm, proving that even in moments of chaos, sleepy sanctuary could be found if one dared to believe in magic. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing through trees with an intensity that would make any seasoned sailor reconsider their life choices. Rain lashed the ground, turning the once gentle glade into a tempestuous dance of droplets that mimicked furious fairy folk with their raucous rhythm. In the very midst of this squall, 3 young friends, Lyra, Ori, and Maris, sought refuge beneath the colossal canopy of a wise old oak that had seen far more storms than they ever would. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth, a rich aroma that clung to their clothes and filled their lungs with the invigorating scent of adventure. If only they could find it amid the cacophony. As their hearts raced, they dared to believe that something extraordinary lay just beyond the edge of the storm. A flicker of magic waiting to untangle their fears, like a well-worn sweater in a knotty yarn basket. And just as thunder cracked above and illuminated the chaotic dance of the trees, a sparkling light flickered to life ahead of them, tiny bodies twinkling like fireflies on a bright summer's eve. There, among the roots of the oak, the dream fairies emerged, radiant and sprightly, their laughter harmonizing beautifully with the sharp, crackling sound of lightning in the distance. Each fairy twirled and shimmered with colors that seemed plucked straight from a rainbow, their diaphanous wings glistening with otherworldly elegance. Like a strange, whimsical version of Dancing with the Stars, they beckoned Lyra and her friends, their voices lilting with an invitation that carried the promise of comfort amid the chaos. Come, come, let us dance away the storm, trilled one particularly sparkly fairy, who blinked her eyes like sequined buttons, all while striking an impeccable pose that would absolutely frustrate any Instagram influencer worthy of the title. As the friends joined this fantastical frolic beneath the frowning clouds, the storm's fury slowly began to fade, replaced by a gentle pulse of music that resonated in their very souls. Colors swirled around them. The night air turned warm like a cozy blanket fresh from the dryer, suffusing everything with a dreamy haze that blunted the edges of their worries. Lyra found herself giggling, realizing that each step in this celestial dance invited her to release the heavy cloak of anxiety that she had draped around her shoulders for far too long. The discord of the storm faded beneath the sweet melodies of the fairies' laughter, transforming it into a quiet hum, like the whispers of a favorite bedtime story. Ironically, in letting go, like handing over the remote control during a crucial football game, she felt all the more empowered, as if she were finally taking charge of her own emotional narrative. Yet, as midnight approached, a hint of melancholy seeped into the warm air. The fairies hovered with an unusual stillness, their glowing forms losing some of their luster. Despite the enchanting aura of the dance, Lyra's newly discovered confidence began to wane, much like her favorite horror movie character when the clock strikes 12. In a chorus of chiming voices, the dream fairies revealed the bittersweet truth of their magic. It was fleeting, a wondrous but ephemeral gift that could vanish like cotton candy on a hot day, leaving only the sticky remnants of existence. Lyra's heart sank at the thought of returning to the chaos and uncertainties of life, where shadows lurked at the corners of her thoughts. But in that moment, she realized that this magical experience was about more than just sleep. It was about embracing a new perspective, viewing fear not as a foe, but a quirky companion that could make her journey more vibrant. As the glade dimmed with a soft glow, Lyra felt a burgeoning warmth in her heart, a deeper understanding dawning like the first rays of sun after a storm. Awash with laughter and carefree flicks of fairy dust, she sensed that the storm of her anxieties would always be there. But now she wielded the tools to dance with it rather than shrink away. With shared glances and knowing smiles, the trio joined hands and stepped into the heart of the dreamlike swirl. Their fears transformed into something captured in a gentle waltz. The last glimmers of fairy light mixed with the far-off roll of thunder, reminding them that even in daunting moments, there could be beauty, a dance that made the night alive, vibrant, and unyielding. And just as the clock chimed midnight, Lyra whispered a promise to the fairies to embrace this dance of dreams, ready to face whatever came next, whether it be a nightmare or a new adventure. As the clouds churned overhead, with shades of gray and navy swirling like an angry cauldron, Lyra stood at the edge of the enchanted forest, a peculiar battleground between her heart and the mystical beings that fluttered around her. The gusty winds howled, creating a cacophony as if nature itself were auditioning for a rock band. Her mind, once a tranquil pond, now roiled with uncertainty. Each thought a stone thrown with ferocity. Would she heed the call of her village, where the scent of freshly baked bread and blooming lavender wafted through the air? Or would she stay and delve deeper into the enchanted realm, where the air sparkled with magic and laughter echoed like distant chimes? Each choice weighed down on her like a giant, spoon-wielding chef threatening to stir her into a boiling pot of indecision. With every clap of thunder, Lyra felt the tightening grip of fear curling its fingers around her heart. It was like being trapped in a horror movie where the dim flashlight just wouldn't illuminate the shadows. Ori, who shimmered like a comet caught in a paperweight, hovered closer, sensing her turmoil. He's the kind of friend who radiates calm, but even his glow dimmed under the shadow of an existential crisis. And there it was, the storm mirror reflected back all her hidden doubts. The whispers of inadequacy wrapped the air around her like a damp, itchy blanket. Disturbingly cozy, it smothered her senses as she wrestled with the idea that her piece might slip through her fingers like that last piece of pizza at a party where everyone's staring, debating on whether to take it or hold off until the next round. Lyra took a deep breath, closing her eyes against the tempest. In that moment, she recalled the soothing sounds of rustling leaves and distant fairy laughter which had filled her days in the enchanted woods. They often reminded her of those serene moments on lazy Sundays, lounging on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, watching a classic adventure movie unfold. What would Indiana Jones do in a storm like this? she pondered, half laughing at the absurdity of it all. But then again, didn't he always find the treasure right before the big explosion? With her heart pounding like a drum solo at a rock concert, she opened her eyes. The storm might rage outside, but inside, a flicker of calm ignited a beacon that whispered, "You can choose," in an epiphany kissed by the winds of clarity. Lyra understood that true calmness didn't lie in her surroundings, but flickered faintly within her soul, like the perfectly flickering flame of a candle, resistant to the chaos around it. It was a novel idea, like discovering that your favorite cereal was secretly healthy. If she could indeed choose her thoughts, then maybe she could embrace the storm as a thrill, rather than a terrifying foe, just like choosing to wear mismatched socks and strutting them like a fashion statement. She decided, why not face the downpour with an uplifting spirit? The fairies twinkled with intrigue, their tiny eyes wide as she spun around, her heart swelling with resolve. Like a true heroine, she would dance through the storm instead of shrink away, an unapologetic embrace of the wild and wonderful chaos of life. With a deep, steadying breath, she took a step forward, feeling the familiar magic of the enchanted forest pulse beneath her feet, both thrilling and comforting, like the warmth of an old blanket found in the attic. The storm may have been fierce, but inside her, a quiet storm brewed of determination and hope, less like a hurricane and more like a well-orchestrated symphony, perfectly in tempo despite the rain. Lyra's laughter rang out amid the echoes of thunder, a defiant melody in a world driven by fate. She realized that her choices were not shackles, but keys, each one unlocking a door to new possibilities. How closely she now stood to the edge of fear and adventure. And with that daunting, yet exciting leap of faith, she would not only choose to stay amidst the fairies, but would revel in the beauty of uncertainty, knowing she held the power to craft her calm, no matter how wild the storm outside became. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Lyra stood at the edge of the forest she had traversed for what felt like an eternity. Her heart brimmed with newfound wisdom, each lesson etched in the very fabric of her being. With a final, lingering glance at her friends, each waiting for their own adventures, she turned southward, longing for the familiar scent of baked bread and blooming wildflowers that only her village could offer. It was as if the whispers of the forest, alive with the rustle of leaves and the croaking serenade of frogs, called out to her, promising a soft embrace when night finally enveloped the world. Like a character in an old fairy tale, she felt as though her journey was a fantastical turning point, where even the wind seemed to wish her well, with playful nudges against her cheek. As she wandered deeper along the path, the familiar silhouette of her village emerged, bathed in the silvery glow of the moon. Tiny lights flickered in the homes, fireflies or lanterns. She could scarcely tell. Both felt equally enchanting after her time in the wild. A sense of calm swept over her, a feeling as gentle as a grandma's warm hug after a long day, cradling all the worries she had carried. She was no longer the girl who entered this forest in search of answers. She was transformed, her heart lighter and mind clearer. Even the nightly sounds of her village, the clattering of plates, the distant laughter, felt like a lullaby, promising her a peaceful evening ahead. Finally, Lyra reached her cherished doorstep. The wood warped, yet sturdy, beneath her fingers, feeling like an old friend. The smell of her mother's spicy stew wafted from inside, stirring her hunger and wrapping around her like a beloved blanket. She stepped over the threshold, the familiar creak of the floorboards beneath her announcing her arrival like a well-rehearsed stage cue. As she settled onto her bed, the soft sheets enfolding her felt like a serene cloud, while the gentle sounds of the night wrapped around her, soothing her like a softly spoken story. With a peaceful sigh, she closed her eyes, ready to surrender to the blissful embrace of sleep, knowing she could trust the night to cradle her fears away. In the depths of her slumber, the forest's whispers danced through her dreams, echoing with their melodic secrets and softly guiding her to a realm untouched by chaos. Oh, how sweet it was to feel unburdened, as if she had tossed her worries overboard like old sea barnacles. Each gentle breeze that caressed her cheeks seemed to carry a promise that with every nightfall she would find calmness, grace, and a sprinkle of magic waiting in the wings. For Lyra had learned that the simple act of letting go, like dropping a boulder into a peaceful pond, created ripples of peace that echoed throughout her being. And so, snug in her blankets, she drifted deeper into dreams, each moment instilling a profound comfort, her heart humming the softest lullaby of all. In the heart of Arito, where the sun kissed the horizon like a warm friend reluctant to leave, Layla, a young healer with wild curls and an even wilder imagination, wandered through the marketplace. The air was thick with the scent of roasted spices and the chatter of traders, their voices thick as honey and nearly as sticky. Yet, amidst the clamor, it was the whispering sands beneath her feet that captivated her most, ancient grains of time sliding through her toes, as if revealing the secrets of celestial realms. Layla always felt a strange pull to the nighttime rituals of her people, rituals that seemed as old as the stones that lined the pathways, a legacy she was destined to explore. With each sunset, she wondered if those sands held the stories of forgotten dreams waiting to be unearthed once again. Like a gopher digging up treasures for Halloween trick-or-treaters hungry for more than just candy corn. As twilight enveloped Arito in its lavender embrace, Layla settled beneath a weathered oil lantern, watching her elders gather for their night rituals. Cloaked in flowing robes, adorned with intricate patterns that spoke of the cosmos, they chanted softly, their voices weaving like gentle streams into the warm night air. The soft murmur of mantras resonated through the atmosphere, each word dipped in honeyed nostalgia, tickling Layla's ears and curling around her heart. Deep breaths filled with the earthy aroma of incense wafting from the nearby fire created a comforting veil, reminiscent of the first snow settling on a tired lawn. She couldn't help but chuckle at the irony. Here, in a land marred by scorching days, her people worshipped the soothing embrace of sleep like it was the hottest club in town, an oasis of calm amidst the chaos. What Layla observed next was a dance unlike any other, a slow sway of bodies moving between the waking world and the land of dreams. The elders painted images in the air as they draped themselves in blankets woven from the fibers of ancient knowledge, each stitch a verse in the narrative of their lives. She giggled quietly, half expecting them to pull out a crystal ball and cast fortunes like a soap opera villain, but instead they stood still, listening to the whispers of the wind and the secrets it carried. In that moment, she understood these rituals were far more than mere tradition. They were a lifeline to the cosmic threads connecting them to the universe. With each intentional breath, they invited a tranquility that resonated in their bones, a reminder that sleep was just as vital to their existence as feasting and storytelling. No one would want to miss the next episode of their lives. As the night deepened, Layla felt an invisible string pull at her own heart, an ancient call drawing her closer to the sleepy chorus of her people. She could see the gentle rise and fall of their chests, the way their eyelids fluttered like hesitant butterflies, flirting with the promise of otherworldly visions. For Layla, the dream world was no mere fantasy. It was a magical realm alive with colors that could make the rainbow jealous. Soon, she joined her elders, allowing the weight of her day to melt away like ice on a summer afternoon, trading in her worries for the lush landscapes of her imagination. Within moments, she too was swept into dreams, guided by the gentle hands of her ancestors who whispered, "Layla, darling, sleep is where we find our peace now. Let the nightly adventure begin." The following morning, as the sun began its dance once more, Layla awoke to the chirping of birds performing their morning symphony, their melodies playful and curious. A realization washed over her like a refreshing spring breeze. Sleep was not just an escape. It was the realm in which her spirit grew wings. She sauntered over to her elders, her heart now bursting with new understanding, eager to share what she had discovered. You know, it's like you all have a VIP pass to the best dream club in the universe, she proclaimed, her laughter ringing like sweet bells. And as the elders chuckled, their eyes sparkling with the wisdom of ages, they recognized that within this vibrant, youth-fueled enthusiasm lay the roots of their treasured traditions, an evergreen promise that the whispers of the sands would continue to guide the souls of Arito in their eternal quest for tranquility. In the heart of Arito, a village cradled by mountains and meandering rivers, the air grew thick with tension, as if the sky itself was holding its breath. Dust danced through the narrow streets, swirling like misguided whispers of ancient spirits, foretelling the coming drought. The elders gathered under the shade of a gnarled olive tree, their wrinkled faces contorted with worry, while cicadas sang a mournful tune in the blistering heat. If the land withers, so too will our tranquil sleep, our sacred dreams, murmured Elder Prion, his voice like the slow creaking of an old door. Just then, a young girl, Layla, stepped forward, her fiery spirit crackling like a flame in the dwindling light, determined to counter the gathering storm with the power of tradition. Layla's heart beat with the rhythm of her ancestors as she envisioned a series of sleep rituals, imagining the community draped in colorful tapestries under the blanket of twinkling stars. She could almost hear the soft rustle of fabric, the scent of lavender wafting through the night air, mingling with the earthy musk of damp soil. We must gather, we must dream together, she announced, her voice ringing out as clear as a clarion call. Laughter bubbled up among the younger villagers, who imagined themselves drifting into a blissful slumber, free from the heavy burdens of reality, if only for a night. Layla's enthusiasm was infectious, her vision igniting sparks of hope, but shadows lingered on the edges, skeptics lurking like storm clouds, ready to rain on her parade. As words spread like wildflowers in spring, the village prepared for the first communal sleep ritual. Grains and grains of sand slipped through the old hourglass, each grain marking the diminishing time they had to reconnect with their roots. Layla decorated the meeting area with woven grasses and frail blossoms, fragrant enough to trick the breeze into thinking it was spring once more. Night approached, bringing with it an electric buzz of anticipation, accompanied by the squawking protest of a roost of chickens. Aghast at the outlandish notion of sleeping in a circle, the villagers, young and old, gathered around, some hesitant with crossed arms, others brimming with excitement that was almost palpable, like a child waiting for their birthday cake, yet unsure if it would contain real candles or just wax fakes. However, not all were swept away by the thrill of Layla's dream. Among the crowd, the gruff old farmer Darren chuckled, a sound resembling gravel crunching underfoot. "What good is dreaming when the fields turn to dust?" he barked, shaking his head as if that would somehow dislodge the foolishness from Layla's mind. Undeterred, she rebutted with the passion of 1,000 sleeping lions, citing the ancient lore that tied sleep rituals to the prosperity of the land. "You see, Darren, every time we close our eyes together, we breathe life into the soil. Our dreams nourish it like rain." Her words dripped with determination, but still, he would not budge, his heart a stone fortress against the tide of hope washing through the village. As the first whispers of sleep began to settle over the community, the air grew thick with dreams, both old and new. Layla felt the weight of generations resting on her shoulders, the scent of wild sage intertwining with the softer aroma of companionship. The villagers nestled closely, eyes fluttering shut, as the night echoed with the lullabies of ancient times, trying to soothe the rising despair in the land. In that moment, as jumbled thoughts meandered between waking and dreaming, Layla could almost hear a soft, ironic chuckle from the universe, as if it knew that, in this chaotic dance of doubt and light, they'd not just be preserving a ritual, but possibly reigniting the very soul of a rito. With that, they surrendered their worries to the darkness, crossing their fingers that perhaps, just like the weather, some miracles came from simply believing. The night began innocently enough, with the whispers of wind weaving through the tall grasses around Layla's sacred gathering spot. The flickering flames of the fire danced like spirits set loose, casting playful shadows on the faces of her community as they settled into their meditation. Laughter echoed under the stars, a melody of camaraderie punctuated by the laughter of children playing hide-and-seek among the ancient stones. But soon, without warning, the heavens unleashed their fury. Thunder rumbled in a disoriented chorus, drowning out their tranquil thoughts, while mighty gusts threatened to wrest the very roofs from their homes. It was as if the universe itself was throwing a tantrum, leaving Layla to wonder if the gods were unhappy or just hangry for some celestial snacks. As the storm raged, Layla's heart was heavy, like a stone dropped into a dark well. She could sense the chaos manifesting in everyone around her, transforming serene faces into masks of fear and uncertainty. In her dreams, vivid and unsettling, she glimpsed desolation, parched earth splintering under the relentless sun, crops wilting like forgotten hopes, and restless spirits flitting between worlds in search of something they had lost. It was as if she were trudging through the pages of a tragic epic where despair reigned supreme, and the haunting wails of the long-forgotten hung thick in the air. Yet, Amidst the gloom, a flicker of light sparked within her. Perhaps it was time for her people to remember their strength. Enough, Layla thought, nearly shouting at the storm as if it could hear her from atop the trembling hills. Gathering her thoughts like wild horses, she began to speak to those around her, their trembling ears desperate for direction. Look, the darkness may seem insurmountable, but we are not alone, she declared, her voice cutting through the elemental chaos. The scent of rain mingled with the smoke of the fire, creating an oddly comforting aroma, like a warm embrace amidst the tempest. Each eye she met glimmered with doubt and hope, a strobe light of human emotion that made Layla shiver, not from fear, but from an electrifying sense of purpose. They would face this storm together, as one, with every ounce of energy laden with humor and resolve. Layla led her community in ancient rituals, gestures passed down through the ages like a well-loved book. They joined hands, forming a ring around the flickering fire, chanting sacred verses that echoed like incantations in a fantastical movie. The storm, fierce and chaotic, was no match for the heartbeat of unity that thumped in their chests as they repeated the soothing phrases. Desperation began to lift, and Layla could almost see the colors of fear swirling above them like a cloud full of angry bees, gradually giving way to radiant hues of healing and trust. Take that, storm, she thought, stifling a giggle as she envisioned an epic superhero showdown. Layla and her tribe versus Mother Nature herself in this unwelcome sequel to The Day After Tomorrow. As the winds howled louder, pressing against their barricade of solidarity, it became clear that their collective presence wielded a power beyond understanding. The storm eventually began to relent, its ferocity sapping, as if it had lost a battle against the bonds of human connection. In that moment, the spirits they had glimpsed in their dreams felt closer, their shimmering forms now guiding the tempest back to where it belonged. As Layla looked around, faces alight, eyes sparkling with newfound courage, it was clear despair had transformed into resilience, not just through ritual, but through the laughter, tears, and unwavering belief in one another. Even amidst life's unpredictable storms, the ancient truths prevailed. Unity could indeed weave tranquility out of chaos, reminding her that sometimes all you need is a little magic and a lot of heart. As twilight draped its velvet cloak over the village, Layla stood before the flickering flames of the great bonfire, her silhouette framed against the dancing light. The pungent scent of sage and wild lavender filled the air, creating a mystical atmosphere as her voice rose above the crackling of burning wood. She set the scene for the night's grand sleep ritual, her arms outstretched like a conductor, ready to orchestrate a symphony of dreams. The villagers gathered around, eyes wide, soaking in the moment like grateful sponges, itching for a taste of the ancient wisdom promised by the celestial convergence. Even the stars seemed to lean in closer, twinkling like an audience eager for the show of a lifetime. With a heartbeat sinking to the rhythm of the fire, Layla began chanting in a melodic, echoing voice that seemed to blur the lines between the past and present. It was a call to the spirits of earth and sky, a Netflix special that no one could binge watch, but was instead lived through experience. The villagers felt a shiver crawl up their spines, tinged with both fear and exhilaration, as ancestral voices emerged from the shadows, offering guidance through the veil of sleep. Each word was like an electric pulse, buzzing with ancient knowledge, urging them to confront the demons lurking just beneath their consciousness. They were not just gathering for a night of rest, they were being primed for a night of reckoning, ready to channel their deepest fears into a reservoir of strength that would rival a superhero origin story. As the fire began to dim and the sacred chants faded into an otherworldly hum, the villagers surrendered themselves to the embrace of sleep. With each gentle sigh and sweet exhale, they plunged into realms uncharted, where time warped like a funky Salvador Dali painting. In this dreamscape, their fears took form like surreal figures in a carnival funhouse, twisting and turning, but no longer felt menacing. Instead, guidance flowed like a river, showing them how the roots of their troubled past were intertwined with the thriving trees of the present day. It was a bizarre, yet enlightening episode that felt like mixed reality, both terrifying and soothing, a rich tapestry that connected their souls to the very fabric of nature. And just like that, dawn cracked open the sky, spilling golden light over the village as the villagers began to awaken, sluggish yet filled with an electric charge. Stretching like cats that had just basked in their favorite sunbeam, they blinked against the brightness, the residue of their nocturnal voyage still lingering like a dream left unfulfilled. With newfound clarity, they shared stories of their nighttime encounters, laughter erupting here and there, like popcorn kernels bursting in hot oil, each tale echoing the same truth. Tranquility lay within their unity, crafted from the collective dreams spun during the night. They realized that each person's dream was a thread woven into a larger tapestry, rugged but beautiful, revealing the intricate dance of life they shared with one another and the natural world. Ironically, it was the seemingly chaotic convergence of their fears that had led them to this moment of shared insight, as if the universe itself had scripted a compelling season finale just for them. As the sun climbed higher, casting a warm glow over the landscape, Layla watched her community with a smile. feeling like a proud director at the premiere of a blockbuster. The whispers of the ancestors lingered in the breeze, reminding them that their bond with nature was the sacred thread connecting their lives. They breathed in the crisp morning air, an elixir revitalizing their spirits, and exchanged knowing glances, as if claiming a secret only they shared. Gone were the lingering shadows of doubt. What remained was a sturdy foundation of tranquility, rising like the mythic phoenix. With their hearts pounding in sync with the pulse of the earth, they stood united, ready to face whatever else the universe threw their way. Because if they had survived a night of reckoning together, they could conquer anything, even a Monday morning. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, it painted the sky of Arido in radiant hues of gold and soft rose. The air was saturated with the scent of damp earth, awakening the spirits of a community that had huddled in the shadows of despair for far too long. Birds, as if on cue, chirped jubilantly, remarking on the change in atmosphere with a chorus that could rival a Broadway musical. With the storm behind them, people sauntered out, stretching their limbs as if suddenly remembering the joy of movement, their laughter echoing against the ancient stone walls. It was a moment of collective exhale, a respite shared among neighbors, friends, and even cousins who hadn't spoken since Grandma Matilda's infamous potato casserole disaster at the last harvest festival. With the clouds dissipating and the heat vanishing, the community gathered in the shade of lush palm trees to explore a newfound connection to the land they inhabited. Farmers, dressed in tattered tunics that had seen more sun than fabric, enlisted the help of children with sticky fingers and giggling spirits to plant seeds in fertile soil. As these seeds were sown, echoes of wisdom from ancestors floated through the air, carrying tales of rituals practiced in the twilight hours of yore, when the mind could dance between wakefulness and dreams. Layla, the girl with the wild curls and fierce determination, took center stage, waving her arms as if beckoning the very spirit of the earth to listen. "We are not just steering our crops," she implored, her voice rolling like thunder in the distance. "We are nurturing our souls and restoring harmony with every breath." Layla opted for a unique blend of traditional sleeping rituals, sprinkled with a dash of modern flair that would make even the trendiest influencer jealous. She initiated communal sleep circles under a grand old oak that stood sentinel over the community's hopes, inviting everyone to share their dreams and fears before drifting into slumber. Each evening, the villagers would gather, bringing snacks that could rival any five-star buffet, freshly baked bread, dates dipped in honey, and spiced tea that spooled aromas into the night like a faint siren's song. Laughter mingled with whispers of the past as stories unfolded like tapestries, weaving together both the mundane and the magical, from pesky goats that believed they were cats, to legends of the moon imparting wisdom to those who would listen. By the time sleep settled over the group, it was clear this was more than just a ritual. It was a family reunion with vulnerability at its heart. Yet, as they drifted into unconsciousness, their dreams twirled in perfect harmony with the renewed life around them. Vibrant visions danced through Layla's mind, blending the ancient wisdom of her ancestors with whimsical thoughts of her favorite superhero, who reminded her that even heroes needed rest to regain their strength. She dreamt of farmers effortlessly swinging scythes, as if choreographed for a grand ballet, each swing a note in a symphony of production. The earth thrummed beneath them, resonating with whispers of gratitude as life erupted from every corner, roots burrowing deeper, blades of grass pushing through the surface, and flowers unfurling like sleepy yawns. It was a vivid expression of nature, dancing its own version of the boogie-woogie. And the villagers were the lucky spectators. As dawn kissed the treetops again, the community awoke, each member more refreshed than a cat after a long nap in the sun. Layla's heart swelled with pride as she surveyed the scene around her, a sea of grateful faces reveling in their newfound harmony. She eyed the fields, lush and alive, and thought that collectively rediscovering tranquility felt akin to flipping through a dusty family photo album. The old pulled from shadows, brought to life by laughter and shared moments. Every bit of connection elevates us, she laughed, embodying wit even at the crack of dawn, a philosopher with call of the wild vibes. Their journey towards sustainable tranquility was just beginning, a practice woven through their nightly rituals and celebrated at every sunrise, intertwining their fates with the land, a timeless dance of existence, one sleep cycle at a time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the bustling oasis of Samarkand, the air shimmered with the scent of spiced kebabs and blossoming jasmine. Merchants called out their wares, their voices mingling with the lively chatter of traders and the rhythmic beats of distant drums. Among them stood Amir, a young merchant, with dreams swirling in his head like the dust kicked up from the cobbled streets. He longed for adventure beyond the horizon, stories that would dance on the tongues of travelers and flicker in the minds of children. What's life without a tale to tell? He often mused, echoing a thought that might as well have been scrawled on the sides of ancient caravans. This way to adventure. As dusk deepened into twilight, the vibrant colors of the bazaar faded into shades of indigo and violet, and the stars prickled the sky like 1,000 tiny pinholes in the darkness. It was then that Amir heard a voice, rich and warm, rising above the din of the evening crowd. An elderly storyteller named Fatima stood beneath the gnarled branches of a pomegranate tree, her eyes twinkling like the stars above. With every word, she painted landscapes of treasure-laden caravans and whispered secrets that could make even the hardest-hearted merchant weep. "Ah, my dear Amir," she beckoned with a crooked finger, "come closer, for I carry the echoes of the past in my stories." Amir, bewitched by her charisma and the lure of adventure, edged closer, his heart thumping like a tambourine. Fatima launched into a tale of a young woman who outsmarted a band of thieves with nothing but her wit. And a pot of honey cue sticky situations that would make even a sitcom writer chuckle. The way she described the aroma of honey blending with the burning desert sun made Amir's stomach rumble, reminding him he'd skipped dinner for dreams of grandeur. As the crowd grew around them, Amir felt as though he had stumbled not just into a story, but into a vivid tapestry of life itself, woven with laughter, danger, and the sweetness of triumph. "That's the spice of the Silk Road," he thought, grinning at the irony that this was all happening right under his very nose. Fatima's voice rose and fell, like a caravan traversing the rolling dunes, each tale unfolding with rich detail. She spoke of faraway lands where the skies were so blue they made the ocean envious, and markets thrived under the watchful eyes of cloaked figures wielding fortunes. With each word, a colorful world unfurled, one ringing with laughter, and punctuated by moments of peril that resonated with Amir's desire for adventure. "Gather stories," the wind seemed to whisper, a message carried straight from the heart of the Silk Road. Fatima, with her wild mane of silver hair and mischievous grin, embodied the stories she told, fiercely real, wrapped in the warmth of dusk. As darkness enveloped the oasis, Amir stood resolute. He turned to Fatima, his heart thrumming with anticipation. "May I join you on your journey?" he asked, feeling as if he were standing at the gates of a world unknown, eager to uncover treasures hidden in the whispers of forgotten tales. With a knowing smile, Fatima replied, "Ah, but heed this, young merchant. The road is long and filled with its share of woes, just like a poorly seasoned stew." Laughter erupted from the crowd, and Amir felt a part of something much larger than himself. With his heart full of stories yet to be made, he took his first step beyond the horizon, ready to pen his own legend on the Silk Road. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a cloak of orange and purple over the rugged terrain, Amir and Fatima pushed their weary camels along the Silk Road. The scent of dust mingled with the cooling night air, each breath a reminder of the grit that set the stage for their adventures. The distant echoes of howling winds could almost pass for the laughter of mischievous spirits, but in reality, it was the warning of bandits that lingered just out of sight. Fatima, with her keen intuition and sharp wit, sensed the tension in the air, her eyes darting as if chasing shadows. "Keep your head low and your wits sharper," she advised Amir, her voice barely a whisper, yet filled with the kind of authority that could make a lion think twice before taking a step forward. Their first trial emerged like a specter from the deepening dusk. A ragtag gang of robbers nestled at the caravan stop. The clinking of their stolen treasures a telltale duet of greed. The glow from their campfire flickered like the last light of hope as Amir and Fatima crouched behind a weathered cart, bathed in the scent of old leather and stale bread. It was not unlike a scene from an action flick where the hero and heroine strategize. Only this time, the stakes were decidedly higher than just saving the day. Fatima leaned in closer, her breath warm against Amir's ear, hatching a plan that danced precariously between daring and downright ludicrous. In her mind, the bandits might as well have been one-dimensional villains, cynically plucking the popcorn kernel from the hero's hand before an epic showdown. Under the cover of a star-studded sky, silence enveloped them as they quietly observed the gang's every move. Fatima's approach was a curious blend of humor and artistry. She suggested Amir play the role of an unsuspecting traveler, a lost lamb with an empty wallet and an abundance of charm. You know, channel your inner hobbit, if you will, only with less second breakfast and more first-class charisma, she chuckled, lightening the weight of uncertainty that hung between them as she meticulously fashioned a distraction involving a well-placed rock and a handkerchief resembling a fictional map. Amir felt a surge of confidence, like he had just guzzled down a potion of invulnerability. With one last glance at the dozing outlaws, they poised themselves for action, their hearts racing like the drums of an ancient battle rhythm. With the daring audacity of the greatest tricksters, they set their plan into motion. Amir, embodying his newly minted alter ego, ventured forth, while Fatima played the role of the faithful companion from a distance. The bandits, unfocused and lulled into complacency by drink and stolen pleasure, barely registered the flicker of movement until it was too late. A stone soared through the air as Fatima hurled it away from their hiding spot, launching it towards a nearby brush. The thud of impact sent the thugs crunching their beer-stained mugs, instincts kicking in with the precision of a well-oiled machine, only to find themselves grappling with naught but shadows and echoes. Amir couldn't help but stifle a laugh. This felt like a scene from a classic buddy cop flick, gone gloriously wrong. with the bandits scrambling like ants in a disturbed nest. Amir and Fatima hastily made their escape, breaths coming in bursts of exhilaration and relief. The evening air felt electric as they traversed the terrain, laughter bubbling forth, forging a bond that shimmered even brighter than the starlit sky above. As they settled under the sprawling canvas of twilight, sharing whispers of their past, Fatima's wise words echoed with the clarity of mountain streams. Together, they crafted tales of resilience, love, and the relentless spirit that only adventurers possess. And in that moment, with the world's dangers behind them, they felt the guiding warmth of saintly spirits lighting their path forward, who knew that the trials of the night would become cherished memories, legends spinning into the very fabric of their tale on the Silk Road, under the shimmering canvas of 1,000 stars. The night air wrapped around Amir like a familiar cloak, cool and soft. As they perched near their crackling fire, the scent of burning sage mingled with the earthy aroma of the desert winds, weaving a tapestry of comfort against the vast unknown. Fatima, with her dark curls dancing in the gentle breeze, spoke of Kashgar's lost riches, as if the very treasures themselves whispered through her words. She painted visions of streets lined with shimmering silk, where traders scurried like ants, and spices filled the air with untamed sweetness, making even the bravest warrior lose his resolve for battle. You could almost hear the echoes of ancient laughter, intermittently drowned out by the chirping crickets, forming a symphony of nostalgia that made Amir's heart race with yearning and wonder, a mix more intoxicating than the strongest brew in any merchant's stall. Yet, as if the heavens themselves conspired against the promise of storytelling, shadows darkened the horizon, and the wind shifted ominously. Suddenly, the gentle whispers of the night morphed into a furious howl, like an angry DJ with a very poor sense of timing, blasting a mix that sent a chill down Amir's spine. The sand began to swirl, dancing in chaotic patterns reminiscent of a mosh pit, engulfing everything in its path. Amir's heart thundered like a kettle on the boil as he watched Fatima's figure quickly vanish, swallowed by the approaching tempest. In that moment, time stood still, and all Amir could see was the monstrous tidal wave of grains colliding with the night, his dreams, like the treasures of Kashgar, barely a distant memory held tightly in the grasp of a fierce storm. With every stride, the winds tried to knock him down, but Amir pressed on, as if the spirit of every traveler who ever traversed the Silk Road surged through his veins. He envisioned the dusty trails of Kashgar, where he had heard stories of brave souls facing hungry tigers and unimaginable odds. If they could take on such beasts, how could he not face a mere storm? The grit stung his eyes, and as the sands blended with sweat, he could almost taste the salt of his own fear. The ghostly image of Fatima kept him focused. Her laughter danced around him like the grip of a battle-tested sword. Each heartbeat was a drum echoing, "Find her," thundering in his chest, urging him to become the hero he had always dreamed he could be. And then, through the tempest, amid the swirling chaos, he heard it, a faint call that cut through the din like a silver dagger glimmering in the moonlight. Was it his imagination, or did the winds carry Fatima's voice, weaving in and out like a chorus sung by the spirits of the ancients? Driven by hope, Amir steered toward the sound, plunging into torrents of grit and confusion, each breath reshaping his resolve. The night was alive, full of shadows and echoes, as if every gust of wind spoke secrets of the land he yearned to uncover. By the time he stumbled upon the light of Fatima's fire, his heart swelled, not just with triumph, but a newfound strength, a certainty that stories can indeed guide us back home, even through the fiercest of storms. The storm raged as if the heavens themselves were wrestling with an unseen foe. Thunder clapped like 1,000 angry drums, and the winds howled, carrying with them the memories of an ancient world. In the midst of the chaos, Amir's thoughts turned sharply to Fatima, her laughter hovering like a ghost in his mind. It was one of the tales she spun so deftly, a fable of courage and resilience that became his lifeline in this tempest. Even now, amidst the swirling darkness, he could almost hear her voice, smooth as silk, vibrant as the morning sun, urging him to summon his inner strength, to embrace valor like a familiar friend. He clenched his fists, the scent of rain and dust filling his nostrils, igniting a fierce determination within him. With the taste of adrenaline on his tongue, Amir braved the storm-choked terrain, his heart pounding like the beat of a war drum. The world blurred around him, hazy with sheets of rain that dripped from the tips of trees like a bad chemical spill from an 80s sci-fi movie. His mind raced with the vivid stories Fatima had woven, tales of heroes facing darkness with nothing but their wits and the fire in their bellies. He stumbled upon the remnants of their last confrontation with the bandits, a ragged camp strewn with discarded weapons and half-eaten bread, the air thick with the stench of sweat and threats echoed in the void left behind. The realization hit him hard. Fatima had been captured. His chest tightened like a noose, but his resolve solidified. With each step, Amir recalled the lessons hidden within Fatima's tales, how each hero, every stalwart figure, faced their fear with a smirk and a knowing sparkle in their eye, fueled by purpose and an almost reckless hope. He strode toward the bandits' lair, a crumbling ruin not unlike a weathered old man too stubborn to fall. The sound of mock laughter trickled through the broken fragments of stone, a reminder that within that laughter lay an echo of danger. He took a deep breath, inhaling the sharp tang of iron and ambition fusing together in the damp air. And then, buoyed by the flickering light of bravery, he stepped into the lair, the tension crackling around him like static just before a lightning strike. Inside, the bandits lounged, as if the storm outside was a mere backdrop to their riotous revelry, their raucous laughter ringing out like a discordant chorus. Heart racing, Amir observed their smirking faces, their eyes glinting with malicious delight as they slumped around a flickering fire, shadows dancing on the walls like the ghostly reminder of his unconscious fears. A battle wanderlust stirred within him, emboldened by the familiar thump of a hero's heart in storytelling. This isn't a magic show, but let's make it a disappearing act, he declared, striking a dramatic pose with the kind of flair you'd find in an over-the-top action film. The bandits turned, surprise painting their expressions just before confusion morphed into furious rage. It was showtime. The clash erupted with the fervor of a summer storm, bodies colliding with grunts and shouts, the air heavy with the stench of sweat and adrenaline. Amir fought with all the fervor of a bear awakened from hibernation, each movement sharp and deliberate, his pulse roaring in his ears like the ocean's tide. The bandits faltered at his audacity, as every strike he unleashed was guided by the whispers of courage that Fatima had once instilled in him. Amidst the whirl of chaos, he saw her Fatima bound, but unwavering, shooting him a look that said, "You're late," as victory beckoned them both. A sense of camaraderie bloomed amidst the turmoil, a reminder that from the deepest depths of darkness, a flicker of hope could ignite a wildfire of bravery. As the dust settled from the raucous skirmish, Amir felt the weight of his journey settle on his shoulders, but it was a weight he wore with pride. The scent of roasted lamb wafted through the narrow streets of Samarkand, mingling with the sweet perfume of blooming jasmine that clung to the evening air. Under the blush of a setting sun that stained the sky with hues of burnt orange and deep purple, he walked with a spring in his step, eager to share his triumph with the townsfolk. Just yesterday, he was dodging arrows shot by rascally bandits, and today he was a hero, though he kept telling himself that all the bravery was really just a product of sheer luck and Fatima's insistence that running was not an option. Oh, if only the local baker could turn his tales into pastries, he could sell heroes' puffs with a berry jam of valor inside. Arriving at the bustling bazaar, Amir heard the familiar cacophony of life. Merchants hawking spices like saffron and cardamom, their bright colors echoing the tales he carried in his heart. The town was adorned with lanterns, twinkling like stars, reluctantly settling in for the night, eager for the stories they would hear. He clapped his hands, gathering a crowd, and in the spirit of a seasoned bard, he began to spin the yarns of his recent escapades. He relayed the courage of Fatima, how she bested the tallest bandit with nothing but quick thinking and a satchel of cucumbers. They never saw it coming. He chortled, eliciting fits of laughter from his audience. Even the elders, accustomed to grave tales of yore, chuckled, their eyes sparkling with memories of their own youthful bravado and the absurdity of life's unexpected plots. As the fire crackled to life, illuminating faces wreathed in joy and curiosity, Amir brought the crowd closer with the promise of hidden treasures, tales that edged dangerously close to myth. He unraveled stories of the desert winds that whispered about lost caravan routes, where one could find gold and glory, or, as his luck would have it, hungry scorpions. Each word danced on the air, igniting imaginations and fanning the flames of camaraderie. There was laughter, gasps at every twist, as he narrated the final showdown with the bandits, their gruff voices echoing like a bad karaoke night gone awry. One of them even tried to tickle me, an attempt at distraction that was woefully misguided. Amir chuckled, alluding to the irony of tough guys trying to fight with laughter instead of weapons. But as Amir's tales flowed, a deeper resonance rippled through the crowd, a sense of understanding and shared experience. Little did they know that each chuckle was like a stitch, weaving a tapestry of resilience and hope against the fabric of their own lives. The once abstract feeling of bravery became tangible in the dusk light, creating connections not just to the past, but to one another. Families exchanged glances filled with warmth, and children leaned in closer, dreaming not just of glory, but of friendship that could weather any storm. As the shadows lengthened, his stories seemed to thaw the chilly grip of fear that had lingered since the incident with the bandits, replacing it with the gentle embrace of community and unity. With the moon rising high, casting silvery light upon the gathered crowd, Amir took a moment to inhale the beauty of this gathering, a living embodiment of tales told and shared. He could see their laughter fuse with the stars peeking through the velvet sky, each light holding a fragment of their stories, like fireflies tracing the arcs of their aspirations. In this moment of togetherness, Amir realized that these encounters were not merely entertainment, but the very threads that bonded them all, reminiscent of grandfathers reciting simmering histories over rice and stew. So he vowed silently to keep our stories alive, to let them echo through the ages, ensuring that, on the Silk Road, where the whispers of the past met the courage of new tales. No one would ever feel alone under the obsidian blanket of the night as the final flicker of the fire danced and the crowd began to disperse. He felt a flutter in his heart, a promise that their stories would be told again and again, fresh as the dawn yet rich with tradition. Tucked away in the enchanting misty hills, the silent monastery stood like a stubborn old tortoise, its stone walls draped in the soft embrace of climbing ivy and mist. The air buzzed with tranquility, a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle often found in the outside world, where life is as chaotic as a squirrel on caffeine. The monks, dressed in humble robes the color of freshly fallen snow, moved silently like shadows, living embodiments of the peace echoed in their sacred space. Here, the scent of aged parchment and incense drifted through the corridors, weaving a fragrant tapestry of history and devotion that seemed to whisper secrets only the heart could hear. At the heart of this serene hive of activity was Brother Samuel, a headstrong young monk with a penchant for curiosity sharper than a double-edged sword, questing for wisdom in the age-old rituals of sleep practiced by his fellow brethren. As he wandered through the monastery's library, a repository of ancient texts older than his last haircut. And trust me, that was saying something. Brother Samuel stumbled upon a faded manuscript, its pages crinkled and whispering tales of yore. The moment he held it, a delightful cascade of dust erupted, momentarily transforming him into a sneezy cloud of spiritual enlightenment. This wasn't just any book. It was a gateway to a world woven with dreams and tranquility, shedding light on techniques of sleep that could leave anyone feeling more refreshed than an all-you-can-eat buffet after a week of salads. The allure of the pages compelled Brother Samuel to breathe in every letter, hungry to unravel the secrets of slumber that had eluded so many before him. As he delved deeper, the descriptions of sleep rituals began to dance around his mind like animated fireflies on a sultry summer evening. The manuscript spoke of the nightly reflection, an ancient practice where the monks would tuck themselves into their straw-filled beds and ponder the day's moral conundrums. Imagine a game of philosophical chess played in the theater of the mind, complete with an audience of sleepy sheep. The laughter of the monks was like gentle thunder as they shared tales of sleep misadventures, ranging from wild dreams about talking cabbages to the odd case of snoring, so loud it could rattle the very stones of the monastery. Yet within these anecdotes lay wisdom. The monks knew that true tranquility and rest was both an art and a science, a mantra as important as their daily prayers, whispering to them that every good night's sleep comes not just from pillows, but from the peace cultivated within the soul. With each page, Samuel felt his resolve strengthen. He was more than just a seeker of knowledge. He was becoming an alchemist of rest, ready to translate tranquility into enlightenment. His heart raced like a caffeinated rabbit as he envisioned himself practicing each technique, his mind swirling with glorious possibilities like a smoothie of serenity. He could picture it, a peaceful night spent wrapped in shadows, drifting through calm waters of his consciousness, plucking stars from the vast night sky, while other monks slept like logs, blissfully unaware of the cosmic adventures at play in their dreams. The manuscript hinted at a pivotal truth, that serenity in sleep was not merely for the preservation of energy, but a critical component in reaching that ethereal plane where humanity touches divinity, an idea that danced where dreams and awakeness collide. And so, armed with the wisdom of the ages and a newfound zest for nocturnal introspection, Brother Samuel couldn't help but chuckle at the notion that such simple practices could yield enlightenment. It was like finding out that your grandma's secret ingredient for the family sauce was just a sprinkle of love, no magic beans required. As the moonlit night descended upon the silent monastery, Samuel drew a deep breath, embracing the weighty yet exhilarating task of putting these ancient techniques into practice. Perhaps one night soon, he would sink into the depths of his dreams and emerge not just as a monk, but as a beacon of serene sleep, illuminating the path for those navigating the shadowy rivers of the mind, like a lighthouse for the slightly bewildered sailor in all of us. For in the stillness of slumber, as the chorus of snores and whispers signaled the onset of night, Brother Samuel knew he was on the brink of discovering something extraordinary. In the flickering candlelight of the monastery, Brother Samuel hunched over ancient scrolls, his fingers tinged with the scent of aged parchment and incense. He marveled at the wisdom etched in eloquent script, recounting the tales of revered monks who reached untroubled serenity through their nighttime rituals. With every page turn, he could almost hear the hum of their meditative chants, soothing as a gentle stream babbling over smooth stones in a forest glade. Their methods ranged from guided meditations that summoned peaceful visions to concoctions of calming herbs that filled the air with whispers of lavender and chamomile, sending shivers of tranquility racing down his spine. Here was a treasure trove of knowledge, begging to be shared. Yet he sensed the winds of discord swirling among the monastery walls, like errant autumn leaves caught in a storm. Yet, as Samuel embarked on his quest to bring these timeless practices to his brothers, a shadow loomed large. The elders, their faces weathered like ancient bark, gathered gravely, their deep-set eyes peering out from under furrowed brows. Change, they scoffed, clasping their rosaries as if they were steering a ship through a tempest. They were guardians of tradition, cocooned in a comforting blanket of history, and they feared that any drift from the status quo risked unraveling the very fabric of their serene existence. This resistance was as stubborn as a mule stubbornly fixated on the status quo, and in the throbbing silence of their chamber, tensions pulsed like the beat of a distant drum, warning of the storm to come. Samuel, however, remained undeterred, sensing that the roots of tradition could coexist with the refreshing winds of new ideas. He envisioned evenings where monks would gather, each cradling a steaming cup of herbal tea, amidst the hum of soft laughter and the tinkling of wind chimes in the moonlight. The elders flatly protested such frivolity, clutching their scrolls as if they were the sacred tablets from which the very rules of the universe flowed. But Samuel, with his youthful spirit, saw the irony. The very essence of monastic life was communion with God, nature, and one another. Could they not embrace these new practices, enhancing the peace they already knew like popcorn enhances a movie night? Whispers echoed through the halls of the monastery as each brother deliberated their stance in hushed tones, much like those high school debates scribbled on chalkboards just before prom. Filled with passion, uncertainty, and a few bad puns, young brother Matthew, his eyes glinting with mischief, proposed a sleepover for serenity, where they could all try the ancient practices together. His enthusiasm was infectious, even arousing a reluctant chuckle from the frowning elders. Yet the underlying hope rippled in Samuel's heart, longer than a pizza delivery on a Friday night. Perhaps, just perhaps, this new method might illuminate the dim corners darkened by doubt and resistance, shedding light on unexpected paths to peace that the monks had yet to explore. As preparations for the controversial gathering progressed, the air buzzed with a bittersweet mix of excitement and resignation among the elders. Like a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, they found it hard to sit comfortably amidst the stir of change. Yet, as evening descended, shrouding the monastery in a soft golden glow, even the oldest amongst them felt an inkling of curiosity. What if these whispers of the past could lead to an even deeper reservoir of serenity? Who knew if the soothing sense of herbs mingled with nostalgia could summon tales as delightful as they felt? Indeed, with a playful spirit, Brother Samuel knew they might just find a new chapter of tranquility nestled between the old and the new, where tradition held hands with transformation in a blissful dance of the shadows. In the dim light of the abbey, Brother Samuel paced nervously, the night air thick with anticipation, and the scent of burning beeswax candles wafting around him like a sweet but suffocating fog. He had summoned the entire community for the night of trials, a bold experiment in sleep practices that would challenge ages of monastic tradition. The stone walls, which had stood for centuries, echoed with the murmurs of both skeptics and supporters. A historical showdown as riveting as any gladiatorial match in the arena, except, of course, with less blood and more incense, as Brother Samuel arranged cushions and set the atmosphere for tranquility. He felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him like a leaden cloak. Would his innovations, inspired by mystical texts and visions of serenity, withstand the scrutiny of his peers? As the first candles flickered to life, Brother Samuel's heart raced like a horse at the starting gate. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed monks, I present to you the new sleep regime, he declared, trying to channel his inner game show host. The air crackled with skepticism. Some monks raised their brows so high they practically vanished into their hoods. Laughter erupted, and the scent of skepticism blended with burnt incense, a heady mix that could knock anyone off their meditation cushion, while some participants eased into the soft cushions that smelled of lavender and sage. Others remained rigid, determined to cling to their old ways, eyes narrowed in defiance, like seasoned tigers eyeing a perplexing new diet of tofu instead of tenderloins. As the chosen hour approached, doubts swirled around him like swirling autumn leaves. Could he really introduce these new practices to men who had spent decades pursuing stillness in the tried and true? The practice required them to embrace vulnerability, surrender to the night like a dandelion releasing its seeds into the wind. And these monks were more used to steadying their resolve than letting it scatter. The trial began with a ritualistic chant, deep and resonant, punctuated by sound. Yet the deeper whispers of doubt echoed even louder inside Samuel's head. It was like an Instagram filter for his mind, the harsh realities exposed through the blurry happiness of expectation. Was he losing himself in the process? Or was he simply realizing that his own dreams of serenity might just end hidden underneath the bed like a forgotten sock? The night thickened, shadows danced on the stone walls, and the air became charged with the tension of warriors preparing for battle. Etherium-tinged whispers filled the space as monks shared their struggle to adapt, revealing the comedy of their collective attempts to let go, while grasping onto their pillows like a lifeline. Some tried to embrace the new breathing techniques, only to end up hyperventilating. A veritable comedy of errors that would have drawn laughter from even the sternest of faces, had they not been wrapped so tightly in the guise of solemnity. Just as Samuel felt the last flicker of hope dimming, a flicker of a hesitant smile emerged from an unexpected corner. Brother Ignatius, renowned for his wisecracks and razor-sharp wit, broke the tension with a quip about the meditative joy of avoiding metaphorical traps. Laughter echoed through the chamber like a sudden burst of sunlight through storm clouds. As the night wore on, the monks discovered something remarkable amidst their trials, an echo of the very serenity Brother Samuel envisioned, bubbling quietly beneath the thick layer of doubt. They were finding a rhythm that felt familiar yet new, as if they danced into an unknown age, uncertain but invigorated. Each struggling sigh and every sleepy chuckle seemed to paint a picture of shared vulnerability, unraveling tightly wound threads of tradition into something more fluid. In that moment, Brother Samuel realized that the night of trials was not merely an experiment. It was a bridge connecting the past to the present, the old ways to the new, and just like that, despite the shadows, he discovered that most profound peace often lies just beyond the veil of our deepest doubts. After all, serenity has a way of sneaking up on you when you're busy trying to sleep, like a ninja in a lavender-scented dojo. As dawn's first light tiptoed over the horizon, spilling golden hues across the chilly monastery courtyard, the air brimmed with a palpable tension. Inside, weary monks stirred from their restless slumber, eyelids heavy as lead weights. It was a cacophony of yawns, rattled chants, and the uncomfortable shuffle of sandals against the cold stone floor. They had endured nights filled with contemplative silence, punctuated only by the monstrous grumble of their stomachs, reminding them of the hearty porridge that awaited in the refectory. Laughter bubbled up like a spring, unexpected among men sworn to solemnity, as Brother Alfred quipped about his dream of flying over the vineyards like an unwitting superhero, his robes billowing behind him like a cape. Oh, how the weight of tradition sometimes felt like a superhero's costume, a little too tight and way too serious for comfort. In that liminal space where darkness and light waged war, something extraordinary was brewing. Monks, some of whom had resisted the paradigm shift, like old man Brother Gideon, who muttered under his breath about newfangled nonsense, began to sense a curious peace settling upon them. It was as if they had discovered a secret ingredient in the age-old recipe of tranquility. The ancient echoes of their chants mingled with fresh harmonies, a sweet synchronicity that vibrated through the air like a well-tuned lute. It was a symphony, really, with each brother playing his part, from the support of laughter to the solemnity of stillness, infused by an all-encompassing understanding. Who would have thought that their relentless aspirations for sleep perfection would lead them to this shared space of profound serenity? It was then that Brother Samuel, a gentle soul often lost in dreams of holy pastries and peaceful visions, began to connect the dots. The fruits of their efforts weren't just born out of exhausting rituals or whispering secrets to the night owls. No, the true heart of their newfound tranquility lay in something far more powerful: unity, the sacred bond they had forged among themselves. Like a well-crafted tapestry, each monk, colorful, textured, and unique, added an essential thread to the greater design. The realization washed over him, bright and warm, much like the sun cutting through the morning mists. One might even say it hit him harder than a medieval night at a bean feast. And Samuel chuckled at the ridiculousness of that thought, feeling a swell of joy in his chest, an unexpected epiphany amidst the chaos. As they gathered to speak openly, the air was heavy with the scent of incense and old parchment, mingling with an undercurrent of fresh coffee. Let's be real, Holy Spirit or not, caffeine was key. The brothers, whose faces bore the marks of hard labor and relentless prayer, were now united in spirit, ready to embrace both the ancient and the innovative. It was a monastic covenant, an agreement so powerful it felt like the wind had shifted, carrying with it the laughter of saints and the wisdom of ages. They vowed to blend tradition and progression, pouring the more profound knowledge of their experiences into a pot now rich with spices, both familiar and new. Smiles danced around the circle, mirroring each man's resolve to turn the ancient ways into something dynamic. As Brother Hugo excitedly noted, it was like Wi-Fi for the soul. Who knew enlightenment could come with a strong signal, with a lightness echoing through their hearts and minds? The monastery stepped into a new dawn, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for harmony. The trials that once felt insurmountable faded like the last glimmers of night, replaced by a shared commitment to embrace the richness of their brotherhood. They may have started as solitary figures wandering through dim-lit corridors, but now they marched together, a veritable Avengers team of devotion and mindfulness. The once serious air thickened with laughter and camaraderie, like a warm cloak spun from the threads of understanding and respect. And as the sun fully rose, casting a magnificent glow over the stones of their sanctuary, the brothers stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever challenges awaited, unified in their quest for both sleep and sacred connection. As the dawn broke, painting the silent monastery in hues of gold and lavender, an unusual peace washed over the cloisters. The air was rich with the scent of fresh bread, rising like warm memories shared among old friends. Brother Samuel, tapping into a blend of ancient bedrock and modern pizzazz, stepped into his role as keeper of tranquility with the confidence of a seasoned librarian wearing a superhero cape. Each dimly lit corner became a sanctuary for meditation, where the monks, clad in their earthy robes, embraced their newfound practices. They shuffled about the monastery like serene ninjas, whispering wisdom in hushed tones, mindfulness trailing in their wake like the sweet smell of incense wafting through the stone halls. In the weeks following their transformation, the brothers engaged in nightly sleep rituals that would have made any hipster coffee shop proud. They lit candles crafted from beeswax, the soft glow making shadows dance like toddlers at a birthday party, each flicker inviting deeper contemplation. The sound of chanting filled the air, resonating through the ancient stones as they settled into their meditative states. They shared laughter over humorous anecdotes, discovering that the sweet spot between enlightenment and ridiculousness was, indeed, a groovy path to walk. Brother Samuel encouraged them to embrace both the serious and the silly, reminding them that even the most somber monk can sneak in a chuckle now and then, preferably during late-night prayers when sleep kept knocking at the door. As they embraced a more modern understanding of sleep, the monks began experimenting with techniques ranging from the bizarre to the improbable. They learned to honor the sanctity of naps, recognizing that even warriors of righteousness need a brief respite after righteous fights, like a Jedi after a lightsaber duel. One day, Brother Jacob suggested bringing in plush blankets, and suddenly the monastery became a sleepover paradise, filled with comfort pillows and perhaps a few too many snacks. They discovered that a shared giggle over a crumbs-laden muffin could lead to deeper bonds than any solemn prayer. Who knew that even amidst the stone and silence, the monks could concoct joy out of simple indulgences, like a spoonful of honey in their herbal tea. As they thrived in their new harmony, a camaraderie blossomed like the wildflowers outside their cloister walls, filling their spirits with joy. They formed a tight-knit community where conversations flowed like warm honey, sticky yet sweet. Brother Samuel often joked, "If we can survive plucking our own eyebrows under the flicker of a candle, surely we can face anything." The monastic shadows that once loomed large transformed into a canvas of collective sighs and shared dreams. It was as if the very walls exhaled liberation, echoing with stories of tranquility that intertwined their fates like a richly embroidered tapestry hanging on display. And so the monks journeyed on this harmonious path, their sanctuary echoing with the whispers of both past and present. They understood that the serendipity found within their shadows was not merely an end, but an ongoing saga of balance, nurture, and a touch of mischief. With Brother Samuel guiding them like Gandalf the Wise, they sought out new wisdom with the fervor of treasure hunters seeking the ultimate prize, peace. As night-time descended like a gentle blanket, the monks would huddle together, exchanging stories woven with threads of laughter and dreams. They had found serenity not just in the silence, but in the joyous ruckus that comes with being deeply, unapologetically human. In the heart of the tranquil village, where the fog rolled in like a soft blanket and the scent of cedar filled the air, lived a gentle storyteller named Alara. Her voice, as smooth as honey drizzling from the comb, wrapped around the townsfolk like a warm embrace on a chilly evening. Each child and elder alike gathered as the sun dipped below the horizon, eager for the enchantment that sparkled in her eyes. On this particular night, the leaves danced with whispers, a soft rustle echoing the secrets of the whispering woods, calling forth curiosity and imagination. As the moon cast silver beams through the branches above, Alara beckoned them closer, her face illuminated by the ghostly glow, and the anticipation in the air felt like static before a storm of stories. With a playful flick of her wrist, Alara invited her audience to silence their worries, telling them that tonight's tale was more than mere words. It was a soothing balm for restless hearts. The villagers leaned in, drawn by an unseen thread of magic that seemed to swirl around her like the sweet scent of wildflowers in spring. Imagine a world where troubles floated away with the fireflies, and laughter echoed louder than chattering crows. She began, her voice punctuated by the occasional crack of twigs beneath their feet, the woods alive with the night's soundtrack. With her enchanting presence, Alara painted a vivid landscape that came alive from her lips, each listener finding splashes of their own dreams within her fables, the gentle night air wrapping them in a cocoon of calm. Tonight's story was about a peculiar little gnome named Thistle, who, unlike his kin, had no desire for gold or glitter, but an insatiable yearning to collect the echoes of laughter that floated through the woods. His tiny home, a hollowed-out tree trunk lavishly decorated with moss and daisies, was filled with jars that captured the very essence of joy, each bubble shimmering like a tiny star. Alara's audience roared with laughter as she described Thistle's attempts to store sounds, recalling the time he accidentally trapped a bumblebee that buzzed like a grumpy tweet of a social media giant. The imaginations of the villagers ignited as they envisioned the chaos that ensued, each jar popping with glee, sending giggles spiraling into the night sky like fireworks at a festival, shimmering down upon them like confetti. As Alara spun her tale, she revealed Thistle's journey through the whispering woods, where shadows and moonlight danced like old friends, weaving a thread of connection between the known and unknown. The stories whispered to him, echoes of ancient folklore floating like feathers on the breeze, weaving through the trees and stirring the leaves into a joyous symphony. among the owls who provided sage advice, if owls are indeed wise, or just really good at math, Thistle learned the importance of sharing laughter rather than hoarding it for oneself, she declared, her eyes twinkling with mischief. The villagers nodded in agreement, realizing the deeper truth woven within the gnome's whimsical encounters, their hearts swelling as they embraced the notion that joy, when shared, blossomed into a garden of collective happiness that thrived long after the sun set. As the story wound to a close and the last echoes of laughter faded into the night, Alara gently reminded her audience, even in those darkest moments, remember the laughter you hold dear and let it guide you through the thickets of worry. The villagers, transported to their own realms of imagination, felt the warmth of connection wrapping around them like an old quilt, lovingly worn but still radiant with stories. The moonlight shimmered through the trees, filtering down like a gentle shower of stars, mingling with the lingering scent of pine and earth. With sleepy smiles and soft hearts, they departed, each clutching a piece of Thistle's magic, a reminder that in the depths of the whispering woods, their laughter would forever find a home, echoing through time as they drifted off into the embrace of slumber, one tale closer to their own dreams. Alara's voice danced through the air, warm and inviting like a sunbeam breaking through morning fog, as she began to weave the tale of the dreaming river. Picture a ribbon of silver flowing through a vibrant valley, where the water shimmered with the color of the dusk sky and sparkled with the laughter of children playing nearby. The river, kissed by the gentle caress of willow branches, beckoned weary travelers who sought a moment of reprieve from life's relentless grind, an oasis of tranquility in a world too often lit with chaos. A sweet, earthy scent wafted from the banks, mingling with the fragrance of wildflowers, lulling even the most restless to a sense of calm, like a warm quilt fresh from the dryer on a chilly evening. Resting beside the dreaming river, one might find themselves surrendering to the inviting lullaby of the waters, blissfully unaware of the mischief lurking just beneath the surface. But not all was as serene as it appeared, for a troublesome spirit named Rooker had taken a liking to this idyllic sanctuary. With a name that sounded suspiciously like a villain from some long-forgotten fantasy movie, Rooker reveled in his role, stirring the waters with the energy of a caffeinated raccoon. To the villagers, he was the embodiment of dread, a trickster who tossed aside calm like a child throwing a tantrum, causing ripples of fear to spread among those who dared to dream by his tempestuous domain. With every raucous splash and uninvited surge, Rooker created a chaotic dance that transformed the soothing flow into a wild, roaring beast, turning dreams into nightmares quicker than you could say. Repeatedly devours whole pizzas in one sitting, The villagers trembled, tossing their dreams into sleeping bags rather than tempt fate at the river's edge. As word spread about Rooker's unpredictable antics, travelers began to approach the dreaming river with trepidation, clutching their blankets like shields, eyes darting for any sign of the pesky spirit. Can you imagine? Standing on the shore, heart pounding louder than a drum solo at a rock concert, as the once calm waters churned like a mad pot of stew. The very air thickened with uncertainty, a tension so palpable you could slice it with a knife, and the scent of wet earth turned to a bitter tang. Do you hear that? One traveler would whisper, "It's a growl, or maybe just my stomach after that strange stew back in town," as he cautiously stepped closer to the water. And yet, amidst the fear, the magic remained, as the river whispered sweet promises of dreams to come. If only one could gather the courage to sit beside its banks, amidst the chaos. Every now and then, a brave soul would venture forth, determined to conquer their fears like a hero in an epic fantasy quest. They would settle down with bated breath, entranced by the sultry serenade of the river, momentarily forgetting Rooker's shenanigans. With dreams of fantastical realms bubbling to the surface, the water would mirror their hopes, the gentle ripples reflecting visions as vivid as a Pixar movie. Just when the weight of the world seemed to lift, Rooker would swoop in like a dramatic plot twist, his laughter echoing across the waters, sending everyone tumbling back to reality with a splash. And there, breathing heavily, the dreamers would find themselves staring back at the river, teetering on the edge of temptation, caught in an unintended game of tag with the spirit. In time, the villagers learned to coexist with the dreaming river and its mischievous spirit, understanding that even the most chaotic waters could harbor a well of dreams. They perched themselves like eager birds on the riverside, armed with snacks and witty commentary, transformed from fearful mortals into seasoned veterans of the unpredictable. Rooker, reveling in his entertainment value, became less the frightening phantom and more the playful jester, trading fear for laughter as he splashed cheekily at the dreamer's feet. The river became a metaphor for life itself, shimmering with the beauty of dreams, while reminding everyone that a bit of chaos might just be the pixie dust needed to elevate the mundane. And so, side by side with Rooker, the villagers found peace in the madness, a reminder that in every fear lies the possibility of laughter, like finding your car keys in the refrigerator, surprising and oddly comforting. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow across the village, Alara gathered the townsfolk around the giant, knotty oak in the square. With a mischievous twinkle in her eye, she began to weave the tale of Rooker, a spirit both playful and treacherous, whose antics disrupted the tranquil waters of the dreaming river. The river, which had once mirrored the peaceful skies above, now bubbled and frothed with Rooker's laughter, sending shivers through the souls of those who dared approach its banks. Imagine that, a spirit playing tricks like a child who's had won too many sweets, she mused, making the villagers chuckle nervously, yet eagerly, as they drummed their fingers on their knees and leaned in closer to her every word. Alara painted a vivid picture of Rooker's challenges that transformed the gentle flow of the river into an indomitable force, splashing icy water onto unsuspecting passers-by and stirring up ghostly whispers that echoed like old-timey radio static. Each splash was a reminder of his power, as if the river itself had turned into a tempestuous beast. The smell of damp earth filled the air, each scent wafting through the villagers' noses as they recalled lost boats and baffled fish. Do not fear, my friends, for every challenge brings a chance, even if it's as messy as a cat in a bathtub. Alara quipped, her voice weaving comedy into the caution. With each word, a sense of camaraderie overtook the villagers, their hearts beating faster, not from fear, but from the thrill of what they might accomplish together. Inspired, they began clenching their fists, whispers of courage flowing like an ancient river within their very souls. The children, eyes wide and bright like the moonlit waters, crowded around, imagining their own brave tales of heroism. As if they were mini Rookers in training, they felt the rough bark beneath their fingertips and heard the distant rustle of leaves in the evening breeze, a soft reminder that they were not alone in their fears, a collective acknowledgement that they could face the storm brewing just beyond the safety of their village borders. Alara sensed the energy rising, and with a flourish, she challenged the villagers to confront Rooker's mischief head-on. Why not make peace with this troublesome spirit? Instead of running away faster than a cat dodging a bathtub, let's confront him with our unity, she shouted, her voice soaring above the night's serene sounds. The villagers chuckled at the irony. Instead of a battle of wills like some old-time gladiators, they would arm themselves with good humor and a cauldron of courage. With their imaginations sparked bright as fireworks, they began to plot how to charm Rooker back to a more friendly frolic, with laughter instead of fear. The air was thick with the scent of adventure, setting their hearts alight with the promise of impending excitement. As the villagers stood united, the soothing lull of the dreaming river flowed around them, seemingly in agreement with their newfound determination. Together, they envisioned a future where Rooker's laughter would add to the river's charm rather than drown out their joy. With a deep breath, they prepared their hearts and minds, their spirits like sails unfurling into the wind. Hand in hand, they embarked toward the river, ready to transform fear into friendship, laughter into kinship, and mischief into mirth, who knew facing a river spirit could be like a game of dodgeball with the universe. Elara mused as they stepped forward, her every word sending ripples of hope across the water, a promise of harmony waiting just beyond the ripples. As twilight dipped its brush into the shimmering river, the villagers of Elder Grove stood together, an unspoken determination pooling in their hearts. Elara, a beacon of resolve, took a deep breath, the sweet aroma of wildflowers mingling with the cool evening air. The water gurgled ominously, reflecting their uncertain faces and the vibrant hues of the setting sun. With the spirit Rooker lurking deep beneath the surface, the villagers knew they were facing not just a force of nature, but a challenge that could change them forever. They exchanged glances, each one echoing a promise. They wouldn't walk away from this fight without a story worth telling, perhaps one fit for a future Netflix series, complete with dragons and dark lords, if only they could find the spark within themselves first. As they inched closer to the bank, the echoes of their own dreams spilled forth like the warm honey from an ancient pot, sticky with hope. Elara was the first to speak, her voice steady, a calming balm against the river's tumultuous whispers. "What do we really dream of?" she asked, the question hanging in the air, thick as the scent of rain-soaked earth. One by one, the villagers began to share their aspirations, some ambitious, like building a bridge to a kingdom where no one fought over the last piece of pie, others simple, like having a good night's sleep unmarred by nightmares. With each word, the spirit Rooker listened, his watery heart flickering like a candle in a fierce wind. It felt, perhaps for the first time in an eternity, understood. As realizations dawned upon them, Rooker's presence shifted, the river stilled, transforming from a roiling beast into a gentle companion, shimmering under the moonlight. The once foreboding undercurrents mellowed, as if the spirit was shedding its burdens, leaving only shimmering scales of nostalgia for the villagers to witness. Laughter bubbled from their lips, a symphony of joy blending with the sound of cascading water, so much brighter than the somber drumming that had thrummed through the village for too long. It was an irony wrapped in a tale, that a spirit hardened by solitude could find solace in the presence of children and their whimsical aspirations, like discovering that your favorite superhero had a soft spot for puppy videos. The villagers began to dance, lifting their arms to the starry sky, even the chickens trying to join the rhythm in their humorous clucks. A newfound lightness wafted through the air, like the scent of freshly baked bread wafting from the ovens of the village bakery on a cool morning. Elara watched as Rooker shifted, the water's surface shimmering as if filled with countless fireflies, illuminating the spirit's lonely visage. She stepped forward into the luminous glow, her heart racing as the reality hit her. Rooker was a reflection of their fears and hopes, woven together like the intricate patterns of a patchwork quilt made by a grandmother's loving hands. In that moment, she offered her own dream, a vision of a world connected not through fear, but through laughter and shared stories, dodging the bumps in the road like a hero in a car chase scene. And with each shared dream, she saw Rooker's form soften, the hard edge of his spirit giving way to the tender yearning for connection. A narrative weaving itself into the very fabric of the river's flow. As dawn finally kissed the horizon, peace flowed back into Elder Grove, mirrored by the once tempestuous waters. The villagers cheered, a giddy mix of joy and relief washing over them, mingling with the morning mist like a refreshing lemonade on a hot day. Rooker, with a smile like the first rays of sun breaking through a heavy cloud, bestowed calmness upon the village. The river, now a loyal friend, instead of a ghostly threat. Elara, standing proudly among her comrades, thought of how the bravest battles are often fought not with swords, but with the courage to connect, to embrace not only the dark shadows of history, but the lightness of dreams. And as the first birds began to chirp their morning tunes, she couldn't help but chuckle at how a simple gathering turned into an epic showdown, complete with spooks, spirits, and stories that would echo for generations, to swirl like leaves in the autumn wind. In the heart of the village, where the sun glimmered like a golden coin tossed into the dreaming river, life throbbed with a renewed vigor. Elara perched on her favored moss-covered stump, her voice a gentle balm that drifted through the air like a warm breeze. The villagers gathered, wide-eyed and weary, their faces creased from daily toil, yet softened by expectation. Each word spilled from her lips like honey, rich and sweet, as she painted the story of peace, birthed anew from the whispers of the woodland spirits. Laughter echoed, intertwining with the rustling leaves, creating a symphony that urged weary souls to lay aside burdens too heavy for the fragile bonds of dreams. As Elara spun her tale, the aroma of wildflowers perfumed the evening air, mingling with the earthy scent of the recently revived riverbanks. The soft buzzing of insects harmonized with the gentle croaking of frogs, creating a serene backdrop for her words to dance upon. Children nestled against their parents, their small fingers clutching at soft fabrics, while the elders leaned in closer, eager to snatch fragments of wisdom from the air. With each soothing cadence, Alara's voice wound around them like the silken tendrils of mist that rolled over the waters, lapping softly at the edges of the shore. They could almost taste the salty spray of hope on their lips, a contrast to the heaviness of days gone by. each note infused with a promise of serenity. In her story, the villagers became the heroes of their own folklore, sailing bravely across the river of doubt and pulling the treasures of love and kindness from its depths. There was a wild irony to it all. Their greatest fears had transformed into their most radiant strengths, illuminating paths where shadows once loomed. Alara recounted with a twinkle in her eye how the villagers, much like the characters in a beloved tale, had banded together against unseen foes, only to find laughter at the absurdity of their own squabbles over who could bake the largest batch of honey cakes. They had learned that the sweetest victories often came with a side of giggles, the kind that sparkled like stars across the night sky. As she wrapped her story, they clapped, their hands vibrating like the earth after a good rain, fervent in their newfound unity. With every soul enchained to her narrative, Alara felt the weight of their joys and sorrows intertwine like branches in an old willow tree. The strength of the community enveloped them, embracing like an old woolen blanket, filled with the scent of wood smoke and nostalgia. Each villager bore a piece of Alara's gift, a promise that the lessons learned from their humble quarrels would follow them like shadows into the world of dreams. Some chuckled softly, imagining their dreams transformed into rollicking adventures, where even the most serious of grumpy goats could dance and break into spontaneous song. The distant chime of the village bell signaled dusk, and a confident tranquility wrapped around them tighter than a grandma's embellished Afghan, signaling that peace was not merely a fleeting visitor, but a newfound companion. As the stars began to twinkle, those tiny messengers from the cosmos, the villagers settled down, their hearts cradled in the whispers of Alara's words. The echoes of her soothing tale lingered in the air, wrapping around them like a gentle tide, urging them to embark on a journey within. With the dreaming river's gentle lapping at the banks, they drifted into peaceful slumber, their dreams mingling with the enchantments of the whispering woods. In this sacred space, the burdens of the past dissolved away, and thoughts flowed like the river, bright and clear, a serene current that tied their destinies. So, as the moon stood sentinel in the night sky, Alara's story carved its legacy into the very fabric of their spirits, a reminder that within the chaos of life, echoes of peace are always waiting to be heard.